First of all, I wanted to say, hold on, I'm just gonna quickly share to this one. So first of all, I wanted to quickly say that I'm really super grateful for the last 2 weeks because I feel that we have really a lot of people who are starting to come to the guild frequently, are engaging. So I'm really super happy about everything that we see in the channel. This makes me very optimistic about what we can achieve in this season and in the coming season. So thank you all for being here already now. And of course, I'm super grateful that you're going to stay for the session. I have a few news bites that I wanted to share and digest with you real quick. Then I wanted to make sure that everyone knows about the governance parts that we're currently looking at. Then I wanted to do a discussion on education, maybe some that I have a question where we are going to three to thing you are hoping to get out if you're planning for
kind of like how things have been going over there and heard about PM Guild through links, so came here to check it out. And right now, I don't really know too much about it, so just excited to hear in on the conversation and then essentially see where I can help out over time.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you very much. I'm just writing a few bits here. Cool. Then news bites. Education workstream lead update. Sprinkles and Latson have applied, and we had a poll last week already running. However, I realized through a few comments of others that maybe we should firm up our governance before we can close this voting, because currently our voting was not gated, and I'm going to come to this in a second. But currently this one is still open, and we will follow the governance part to close this part in a moment. So let's discuss this here. Then on the vibes check, for those of you who have been joining 2 weeks ago, we had this great feedback tally form that many people answered that gave us a lot of insight about what we need in the guild as the next step. And I've started a separate thread, including a first meet next week, to digest the results of this vibes check. There are a few people who already mentioned in this thread that they're interested in helping me to get the most action items out of this vibes check. If you want to get involved, that would be great. Then check out the thread. It's actually now, I think, archived, but I'm going to show it to you. Oh, it's still here. So vibes check action items. So this one would be the meeting where we then just next week, 7 p.m. UTC, have a quick synchronous one to align what we would like to do. And then we will probably tackle the rest async. I'm super excited. Hold on, this one. Super excited in digesting this because maybe for those who haven't looked at it, apart from the whole quantitative part where we have like a lot of data points, we also have many written feedback data points, and that is what I'm particularly excited about because we get a great flavor of what's still missing to be the guild that we want to be for the people who participated in this survey. And then last week, we talked about maybe rescheduling this meeting. There is still a Let Us Meet open, which to me doesn't look like there is too big of a consensus on this. So if you haven't voted or added your availability on this Let Us Meet, please do so. I'll keep that open for a few more days, and then I'll start engaging async with you to see whether it really makes sense to push this time, because if we just have a few people being available at another time, then we may even just keep this time. Any questions on any of those parts? Because now I have been talking for 7 minutes already. No? All right. Then governance. So like I said a second ago, the current poll for the education work stream lead was not gated for any role holders. So everyone in the DAO could vote. And this is not mission aligned with what we want to do. Because in principle, this way, everyone who even is not part of this guild can decide on our role holders. And this, I perfectly understand, is not the perfect way to tackle this. So I wrote a quick policy on an election process and asked the beginning of this week on feedback on this, and then asked for a vote. Currently, you can see that this vote is at, I think the last time I saw, at 11-4 and 0 against. So if you're an active member, then now you should have a tag PM Guild active member as per our definition, and this way able to vote here. You can just look at your own role and see whether you have the PM Guild active member. I actually don't know how to show it here, but here yeah, so PM Guild active member, if you have this one, then you can vote on this. Currently, it doesn't look like this would be rejected, but I'll just keep it a few more days. And actually, no, it's closing in an hour, sorry. So in an hour, I will then put up the next steps for the election process. And as per the policy that I've written, the next step would be that those who are active members can write a quick application in the channel. So for those who want to apply, just write a few sentences as to why you would be the role holder, and maybe even give a little bit of a flavor what you would like to do in that role, just to give people a better understanding as to why they would vote for you. If they maybe don't know you, then I'm going to put up the poll, also gated. It's going to be a transparent poll, and then we are going to get to the place we initially wanted to be. I'll pause here as well. I'm open for questions, annotations, or anything else.
Yeah, the tax I took up, I hope that is welcome as well. I messaged a form to me, the request form, appear on the Math Other Boss. Oh, and So I'm just trying to update you that I'm already on getting to work. I'm on work already to complete the task. And hopefully, you said we could know because that we don't have anything figured out yet for the third one, advertising, like speaking up in the community call. So for the two
Yeah,
first point, I've gotten to work and in the
that's great. Oh, sorry, now
thank you
your
very much.
connection was broken. No, thank you, Spirited. So that was not true to the governance. You were me on the task. We are going to be at the Kanban board in a second. But just asking, is anyone else having any points on governance? You can also say that you're fine with this. So I know I'm not muted for 20 minutes already.
I'm fine with this.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Yes, I know you're still here. Thanks. Okay, cool. Okay, then I'm gonna proceed with this as discussed. So, education, who are we addressing? I didn't write too much here because I'm actually not entirely sure how this discussion is going to go. But this is what sync meetings are for. I just wanted to bounce ideas and thoughts with you and see where we are going. This is actually to, in my view, input for the future education workstream lead. My first question that I wanted to ask you is, it seemed to me when we started the guild, the main members of the guild were project managers that had already project management experience and that wanted to bounce ideas with other project managers about project management, Web3, best practices, how to deal with problems on projects in BankersDAO, etc. And it seems to me that over the 2 seasons that we are now existing, we also attracted, and I'm super grateful for this because it speaks for our vibes and whatnot we also offer. We attracted a lot of people who don't have a lot of experience in project management, maybe no experience in project management, that naturally have a completely different need in the project management guild, because those of you who are now listening, or those of you who have joined, who have not so much project management experience, you're much more interested, I assume at least, in basic project management education and just learning how to be a project manager. First of all, is this also something that people has the two groups that are in the guild? And I know there is like a spectrum of this, but does that make sense? And if so, do you agree to my view on that there is different needs for those two groups?
Newer faces educational material, as opposed to an agile PM who wouldn't need that material.
Yeah, I agree. Even those who are agile PMs, and I'm going to use GCal as an example. Even he, who's a seasoned project manager, came in kind of like looking for resources on how to become a Web3 project manager. So even those two groups, while I agree they have different needs, they both seem to be seeking education when they show up.
Yeah. So maybe we can say both have different education needs. And I'm wondering if in the first season of the guild, we delivered the skill tree, which was the idea of, if we want to educate people and do a certificate on this, or even something like Kudos, then that we want to train on. And now, at this point in time, I believe we need to fork the whole education thought process into those two. So we need to think about what is it that makes the guild interesting for experienced PMs? How can we set up the learning for them? For example, I could think of that experienced PMs are much more interested in specific thought exchange sessions or threads on a specific topic, whereas new people, people that are new in project management, are much more interested in, for example, a session by links on how to work async in Asana. And therefore, I'm wondering if when we then get even more engaged in the education work stream, should we fork into two different like sub-teams or people who think about this and instantiate something different there? Would you think this is something useful?
Yeah, I think that would be useful.
But when you say useful, are you talking about like when you say are you saying like fork our effort on these? Like I think
Yeah.
education is education. I guess I just wondered like yeah, I don't know. I guess I wondered what the implications of this were.
So the implications of these, or in other words, if education is education, and I have been thinking that to make something that is really useful for the people that are in the guild, for the community, we need to make sure we are focusing our efforts on the right things. And for example, in the last months, we have been starting to build a database, which I believe is still empty, but let's assume we would be filling it with like educational links on PM basics. But if we were to focus on this, then we may lose interest of the guild for experienced project managers. So I'm wondering if it's important for us to deliberately decide to cater for those groups and deliberately make sure that we plan activities to make the guild interesting for both of them to, period. Does it help more things?
Yeah. I guess I just wondered like wouldn't we just talk about this in the education work stream rather than like yeah.
Yeah,
But I guess we don't have
we
one, so
would,
I understand why we're talking about it right now. We don't have an educational coordinator right now.
exactly. So maybe that's what I tried to say in the beginning. I guess this one is one that we are doing work for the education work stream in the absence of one, making sure that as soon as it is as soon as a coordinator, then they have the guidance they need from the community to get started. So maybe that makes more sense.
I would like to share my opinion on the education program, which I feel I'm just reiterating it, and I really believe that trying to plan something out altogether is like a Herculean task, and trying to speculate on what people will find important or interesting for them is also kind of really difficult. And I think the one thing that could be done is to kind of start with one webinar and see kind of the feedback for that, whether it is going to be directed towards experienced PMs or non-experienced PMs. There's a lot of subjects that you can start with that are sort of the basics and build from there. I just find it a bit challenging to kind of, because we're not being very agile about it. We're trying to figure everything out at first. And thing
this is the
Bounty on the do some work later to kind of sort it all out and put it into stream.
So we would ask those of you who are currently listening who think they have something that they could educate others on in sessions, and see how those sessions get structured to something that is a more consistent and repeatable education effort. Does that sound like what you were trying to say?
Sorry, were you talking to me?
You, Fibo, but I can also repeat if needed.
I think that describes it to me, Renee, what you're saying. And I think what could be helpful is to just get some feedback after we run these and kind of understand, if we really want to understand if this is boring to experienced PMs, then we can just ask them as well after we show them. Was this useful to you? What else you'd like to see? I mean, I know it's really hard to gather feedback here and in real life, but like a good attempt.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we could even, I'm writing sessions here, but we could even just bounty something out that someone can pull, and they can completely decide how they want to educate on that specific part, right? One person wants to do a live session, one person wants to do a video, another one wants to do just a write-up. That's then up to that specific person. And Fibo, to your point, would this be especially targeted to the group 2? So I hope you can still see my screen. So I'm trying to work a little bit visually in the agenda here. Or would we also do the same logic for the experienced PMs? So experienced PMs educating experienced PMs.
I think we should
maybe just to add to my, please.
Well, I mean, Renee, like we're the users of this product, right? This educational product. Like when we came here, like what did we want? What did we want to learn? Like we're a good subsection. So
yeah,
I feel like
I guess we can ask ourselves that question.
I agree with you, and I also think like I used GCal as an example earlier. I don't necessarily know if GCal is the best example because he was really pumped about learning Web3 PM, which is cool. But I think I wonder if there are different needs from seasoned PMs. When I was doing something similar in the Web2 world for product managers, we did like a little survey for product managers, and one of the biggest things that they wanted was to get like their name out there in a credible way. So the way to get them to do seminars or stuff like that was basically to guarantee that we could get their name and their brand, their personal brand, in front of a bunch of people. So maybe there is a different need for experienced PMs. I'm not quite sure, but that could be the case.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think this is the case, and I take myself also as at least halfway experienced PM. And also my need would be much more in the sense of it's not even education, but learning from other experienced PMs, the troubles that they were running in recently, especially on Web3. What's the difference? And that's not a specific education part, but it's much more a just bouncing ideas out of real life. On top of course, getting their names out there. So in that sense, I believe what I wrote here, the education path, that's something that's very specific to people that are new in project management and maybe should have a specific people's product what links, but I don't know about Split 2 also for a longer time. So I would like to gather that as well. If Sprinkles, I see probably GCal is unable to answer, but I hope Sprinkles you're still there. Would you also be fine in gathering that in a separate thread in the coming
Sure.
days?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, let's gather. And that goes also, of course, to FIBO and links. I appreciate a lot that you have been such a long time part of the guild, and I also would like to continue to come and be part of this community. And I will also
I'm here for the emotional support. Sorry. I want people to tell me it's okay that things are super slow and that it's okay to set your OKRs like a month after the season started, and that it's a failure to do that. That's
fine, and that's why you join these sessions, to a little bit of that. This guild is also going slower than what we thought we were going. Great stuff.
I like the exposure to different kinds of PMs because I'm like one of those like very hands-on PMs. Like I guess like I learn by doing, and like I feel like I've been exposed to different kinds of PMs here that I wouldn't necessarily have the gumption or ability to meet in real life. Like Justice is an example because like kind of, I don't say an academic PM, but he comes at it from a perspective. So as there's like being around these different kinds of PMs, right?
And for that reason, I'm wondering, for example, and I don't want to deep dive too much into this now, but would it make sense to find a platform in this guild where we as experienced project managers find the space to discuss this? Because I have the feeling that in the beginning of the project management lifecycle working group thing, practically all weekly meets were like discussions where we were bouncing like, how are you looking at things, and how am I looking at things? And probably now that the guild has grown so much, this weekly meet doesn't serve that need anymore, and maybe we need to find something different that serves that need.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. I guess from how we discussed this so far, I would take away two main tasks. One is to open a thread just to make this a little bit clearer on what we just discussed on experienced PMs. And when it comes to making education agile, I would propose that I can just start coordinate on getting started with these bounties and stuff. And after the education work stream lead has been appointed, then I can just sync with that person and hand over this part, or they can make out of this whatever they feel is useful and present it to the community. And I'm going to.
Then how do you want to track the attendance of people that attended the, how will I put it, the meeting, or let's say the teaching? For example, some people might attend today and maybe the next one the person misses it, and the following one the person attends. So if someone is not attending the well, how do we attend to will there be a co-op maybe after the end of the class? Then people can meet it, then we'll know the students or the members that really attended the meeting, and we can say maybe they've gone through the training and they're now senior product managers.
So your connection is not ideal. I'm hoping that I'm understanding you correctly, that this is a question that goes in the direction of active membership and what do you do if you can't attend the meetings or you haven't attended the meetings as often as needed to be an active member at this point in time. And really, for me, I do think that our current definition of active members is something that is just our current definition, and it's completely open to new ways of defining active members. If you have a proposal, then please do so in the channel, and then we can also see if there is community consensus to add or enrich or do something. At this point in time, I believe we just should stick to what we have.
I'm not talking about active members now. Of course, not all active members are interested in taking the course. For example, we people on this course might not have more than, let's say, 6 members that want to take the course. So I'm just saying that how can we track the members that are taking the course, and we will know that these members equally attended maybe 70 to 80%.
I see. Okay, yeah, so this one I understand. So I guess when it comes to attending or participating in the education path that we may do here, then probably for now we will use Mint Kudos to just give people kudos for that specific session that they joined, and by that ways we can then also analyze those that you have, and so we know which sessions you attended. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Okay. From me, that's the input I was looking for on education. Is there more things you would like to say here or anything else? I'm going to quickly take a snapshot of the attendance for the time being, by the way. But please give me your view if you have anything else. Okay. Then, oh no. So in the meantime, now we have screen. Is not working, and did I did like this?
Some people write them down. Some people do screenshots. You can do a screenshot of the, like, if you get out of the shared screen, you can do a screenshot of all of the people.
How do I do that?
So here, I'll show you.
Are you sharing now?
Nope, I'm not sharing. Should I share? Do you want me to share?
Yeah. If that's
Okay,
fine.
I'll show you how I do it. So basically, I have all the members here, and then I just quickly take a screenshot, and then I have a screenshot.
Hold on to it. Let me. You do this one.
And then I got this right here, and it looks like Ray Bankless also has a bigger screen than me or you, so that could also work too.
I don't know if you can also make use of the recordings in tracking the attendance also, since the meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, Well, both Mad Hatter and DAO Dash are looking to do this as well, to record meeting attendance.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Oh, okay. But I don't know how it's going to be uploaded on YouTube because the person that's responsible for that is not actually available now. So I don't know if I should just upload it on DAO and wait for him to do that later.
Who is that? Who is not here? And actually, why is it important that that person is here? So Vicky, you're recording, right?
Yes, I'm recording.
Okay, but then I think this recording can go to YouTube through by GCal then later, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Gcra is not available. It's the one that has to upload it to YouTube. So once I'm done, I will just upload it to DAO then. From there, we can
Gcra is not available right now, but I don't know how to. I don't have the YouTube login or anything like that. So Vicky will probably have to like keep the video till it's available, then provide it for him to upload.
Yeah,
There's another question I have, but Oak Floors is working on a project in a tax in the Kanban board. Or I think along the way the definition of the tax was changed. So it's saying something like the one he's working on is not what was defined on the Kanban board. Oak Floors, can you give a bit info on this?
Yeah, I was just looking for it. It's called Forum for Interviewing New Members right now. It's actually the forum for intake meetings, or if we have new clients like the podcast hatchery that needs our support.
This one?
Yeah, there you go. It should, if you scroll down to the bottom,
Sorry?
see that?
Yeah.
It should be called Create Subject Intake Forum.
Okay. I'm not sure, is that an information for McGill or is it for everyone?
That's the original start.
It's supposed to be for Gcra, but it's not around, and
Okay.
I tagged him on the Notion, but I'm not sure he replied yet. So I was hoping maybe Rene or Links might know if someone probably changed the definition of the tax along the way.
No, I don't know about this. Afraid you have to ask GCal then once he's back.
Okay.
You can just change the heading if you want, right? Like it's fine, I think, right? To change it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
All right. In general, we shouldn't be like, I guess, like, don't look at like doing stuff for permission. Just try to build something valuable, and hopefully if it's valuable, people will use it, right?
I'm actually adding quickly adding the external retrospective. I have to write down the DAO that I'm doing this, but this is the bounty I claimed for the impact DAO that GCal is working in. Okay. On this item, talk to DAO relationships and bankers consulting to get external visibility for retros as a service. I just got feedback from D-side here, and I need to digest this. So I just got this during the meet. So I'm going to incorporate this here. And CryptoDad, if you do have anything on DAO relationships, then let me know. Else I'm going to push this task forward as soon as I've understood what DSide wrote to me.
Only update I have is I create a our service of CRM of the relationships.
Okay, if there is anything that comes out of this, then yeah, share it with us. Okay, then guild visibility, the thought leadership session. I think we are in the final steps to get this in the calendars. It just took some time, but Justice is finalizing this, and then we should get this planned soon. Oak Flores, do you want to say something on this item? Any progress or anything you need from us?
No, so far we had that startup meeting on Tuesday. It was good. It seems like they think they're very clear on what they're asking for support on very specific tasks. When they were talking about among themselves what they needed, there was quite a lot of things between the lines. So I started listening to their minutes of meetings from the last couple of weeks just to try to identify what their needs are. Thomas, were you
just to understand what we are really tackling with this item. Because when it was called project intake form, what you are currently doing, as you are actually the PM for Podcast Hatchery, actually, or at least you're preparing to be the, yeah?
These are two different tasks. If I can meeting, and we were talking about the Podcast Hatchery, someone in the, I think it was links, but I can't remember, in the chat said, do we have a forum for standardizing the intake meetings? So I said, yes, I'll start with that. That was before I asked for that to start up with Podcast Hatchery. So it's two different parts.
Right. But then what could you maybe define what's needed to close this? So we can have acceptance criteria.
Yeah, what I can't remember who started. What we need is for people who's not experienced PMs, like myself, a forum to use when you first talk with people or other guilds that need project management, so we know what to ask for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I understand. And so what you're doing here is taking whatever you did for Podcast Hatchery and generalize that as soon as you're done with the process.
Exactly. So if any of us talks with another guild being for a PM, we can use that as a support tool to remember, did we ask for what their purpose, what resources, and so forth.
Cool. All right. Understood.
Perfect.
Then talent workstream. I think we agreed that we don't cover the talent and education workstream Kanban boards if they have separate meets. On talent workstream, this is the case. On education workstream, I haven't reviewed this Kanban board, and I would suggest to not review it now together, but do it only once the education workstream lead is appointed. Is this okay, or would you prefer to go through all of this together as a pre-work for the education workstream?
That's okay with me, Renee. I've kind of been going through, and anyone that was assigned to it, asking them how's this going, or anything on here. But I don't know if there's been much responsiveness, so I think it's okay to circle back to after.
Okay, cool. The only thing that I wanted to just highlight is I've added this Kanban item for myself. For those who followed the recent discussion in the channel, here it is about whether we could invite the Ethereum theorist to speak at PM Guild because JP and a few others reviewed their page and found this to be a interesting partner to discuss PM in Web3 with. So I'm going to reach out to them. Okay, then create action
Why don't you
items,
let Renee? Why don't you let the person who brought it? Was it Oak Floors who brought it? Why don't you let the person who brought it to the
JP.
guild? Oh, was it JP?
JP
Why don't you,
brought-
yeah. Why don't you let JP contact them since they would probably be interested?
I was wondering why he didn't offer it before, but that's a very fair point. I will ask him if he wants to. Yeah, it's a good point. Thank you, Lynx. And then create action items from vibes check analysis. I think I talked about this. So again, if you want to participate in this, which I would very much appreciate, go to the thread and just leave your name and we'll include you in the rest of the discussion. And that's that on in progress items. And that concludes the Kanban board. And actually, that also concludes the meeting agenda for today. This means we have space for any other business. Anyone want to address something now, discuss something now? Else we are going to close 10 minutes early today.
Well, we had like a retrospective with Bankless Academy. Do you want to discuss the output of that? We had some feedback from Bankless Academy.
I mean, what we had with them this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So for those of you who have followed this discussion, Bankless Academy was looking for a project manager, and we connected Swall as project manager with them. And it seems, at least that's what we discussed with Bankless Academy today, that after a month, Bankless Academy did decide that they don't want to continue the cooperation with Swell. And I was actually asking the Bankless Academy team if they would be willing to share some thoughts with me, and Lynx thankfully also joined this session, and we discussed what the reasons were. So my main takeaway for this guild is that we need to be really clear when we, as project managers, connect with a project, what their expectations are. It seems that Bankless Academy had very high expectations on a project manager, which went even more, that the role would not end at the project manager, but also be a cross-discipline role, also a little bit of biz dev and a few other things. Just because the team is so small, they are just expecting like everyone to lift like the way they can lift in every area. And I personally thought, and maybe Lynx, now that you brought that point up, you can also add your flavor of what you thought are important takeaways to the guild. But I thought that this is also something that we should definitely keep in mind when we connect to a project, that Web3 projects usually tend to be projects that don't have like perfectly defined roles, perfectly defined job descriptions, etc. So if you, for example, Oak Floors now for Podcast Hatchery is doing this great. If you get yourself into the situation that you want to be a project manager for a project in a DAO, then Bankless DAO, and maybe you can also get in another DAO in this situation, make sure you ask a lot of questions of what the expectations are, maybe not only on what do I have to do, but also on what do you regard as successful, and please describe a specific an example of a day. How could it work when I am with you? Just to get as much information as possible on how the expectations are to you. This, I guess, will help a lot. And Lynx, if you want to add to this, then
Yeah,
of course, very happy.
I didn't feel like Swole was set up for success because when we went into it, they expected him to be someone who was working on biz dev and be someone who was working on like emails and also at the same time as well like they were basically expecting like a new co-founder in some ways, which I just felt was like I mean it's a bit unfair to Swole, and it's a common it's a common issue I think in like early stage startups that are hiring, like, you know, they're expecting people to be like them, but like I think that is because we kind of facilitated that connection between them. I felt like they thought that we were saying that this person was going to be like that, but really, that's not what we were saying, right? Like, I don't know. I guess when it comes down to it, I see what you're saying. Like, you know, people should have asked questions and people should have said this kind of stuff, but like, there is a piece of the puzzle that we could have been a little bit more like for our members in the future. You're right that we should that we should probably prepare them for what does it mean to, like, what is the scope of PM work, because at the end of the day they were looking for someone who was going to be in many ways like a leader on their team.
Yes, for sure. They use the word team manager, and I can also see how when you're looking at a project manager, then sometimes I have the feeling, and things, I just say a few sentences. Sorry, I don't want to stop your train of thought, but I want to hear your take on it. I have the feeling that since what is a dev is easily answered and what is a marketing person is easily answered, I have sometimes the feeling the sum of the rest that's left when all of these clearly defined roles are defined is the project manager. And this sometimes can lead to confusion and over expectation.
Yeah, there's that, and there's also like it made me realize that maybe, you know, there I put in some effort last season on like creating this kind of job board for the PM Guild, and it made me wonder if we're even there to be able to say like, oh, you can use our members in your group. I don't feel like we have defined some of the baseline definitions, like what is a project manager, what should they do, um, and as a result, I had wondered if we should like maybe even be looking to seed project managers into other groups yet. Like I don't think that we set up that engagement for success. And I was kind of worried that like if we are like, oh, you know, we're actively trying to get project managers in your group and we haven't really defined or come up with like a shared consensus on what a project manager is in our own group. Yeah, I'm worried about that.
If I can share a little bit about my experience with Fight Club, where it's quote unquote a project manager, but literally anything that comes up, like will work on it. Like I'll work on the governance part, I'll work on onboarding new people, I'll work on community management, I'll work a little bit on treasury. And I think it's okay for them to expect that because I've been such like an original member of the group that I'm really happy to do that. But I don't think it's completely fair to ask a project manager to come on board and basically start acting like a founding member. I feel like that's an unfair expectation. And the role, if you're going to step into a project that's already established, should be exactly like very simple in terms of breaking down tasks, making sure that they're being delivered on time, making sure that it works with your budget, making sure maybe help a little bit with staffing, but maybe business development and marketing, all of that kind of stuff is a bit of a stretch, especially if you're not a founding member. That's a bit of a, like overstepping what this
Like it's a nomenclature issue. This person is not a project manager. Perhaps they're more like an operations manager or a co-founding CEO or something like that. But maybe there's a mismatch there.
Yeah. I get the concerns, Links, and I'm wondering if the initial idea was also assuming that you are a person, and not you, but a person joining the guild, that we would endorse to like connect to a project is a person that claims themselves of being a project manager to a certain level, right? And assuming that you are a project manager of a certain level, then at least this part of the job you can deliver on. Now, unfortunately, on Bankless Academy, the ask was we want a project manager plus, 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 and all of those pluses, then the guild, even if we have a proper baseline, can't deliver on. The only thing that maybe, if I understand you right, in the future, people like Swole and Oak Floors would reach out to a project with a certain set of this is what we define a project manager is and what they should be able to do. So just that you know, this is what the guild, quote unquote, guarantees this person comes with. If you expect more than that, then don't hold the guild accountable. Is that what you're looking for?
It's not even accountability as much as like at the end, like I think like Swole had a bad experience and
Yes.
Bankless Academy had a bad experience, and I think like that's it's not like I want like I kind of don't care if they think that like the guild let them down, right? Like I think about that less. I'm more just like, oh, there are people who just had a bad experience with project management, and that's something that we don't want to happen. So for me, it's more just like maybe we should be creating this kind of body of education, body of knowledge, which says like this is what a project manager does, and yeah, making it easier for people to understand what the scope of project management is. Because yeah, I don't know. I've always I've been in those situations where Swole had been, where it's kind of like impossible, and then at the end of the day, like you put a lot of time and effort into something, and it's just like that doesn't go to agile principles. The agile way says that you bring someone on and you kind of like test them out and go further and further and further, right? Like they kind of had this expectation that he was going to like hit the ground running and immediately start being able to output. Like within a month, he should be outputting as much as they are. And yeah, I don't know. It just seemed a very strange engagement. Yeah, so it's less about accountability and more about like, how can we avoid this situation?
I think this was
If I could just say, just to comment to that, I think a lot of people asking for a PM, they are very focused on their tasks, and maybe they're not really sure what they're actually asking for. So maybe I can't remember which of you said it. We should ask all those questions and what are your expectations, and this is what I can deliver, and then have a very open dialogue. And then if we see that they have needs that, for example, I cannot provide for Podcast Hatchery, then at least we can identify it and see if there's a different way of solving that problem.
Yeah. I can see that we've reached the time. I found this a very useful discussion. Links, thanks for bringing the impulse to talk about this. I actually have to digest this also a little bit, what we heard, what we discussed just now, and see what I would propose, what we should do out of this. But for now, this is a great finisher for my Friday. It's 10 o'clock in the night for me now. Yeah, I know it's, for example, Ray, it's even later. So thanks everyone for joining. I'm very grateful that you spent this hour with me and with the rest of the team. Have a great weekend and talk to you soon.
All the best. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.